Don't we love our certainties? What we see is what we get. So what are we to make of the suggestion that it's all an illusion, created by language, and not just our interpreted reality, but the physical one behind it? Of course, many of the world's religions teach that, but let's look at it more closely. Most of us live in a world of comfortable givens. We don't even think of questioning them. And when they're challenged, we quickly send out mental rescue teams like antibodies to patch up the rip in the fabric of our conceptual world, a fabric we don't notice as a tapestry of metaphors and analogies, a fabric we're born into. We absorbed it with language and we maintain it with language. We put great importance in having essentially the same conceptual fabric as other members of our society. We spend incredible time and energy communicating with each other, checking our conceptual fabric against theirs. We talk about the plight of the world, religion, politics, the latest film, or the best way to cook squid. It matters to most of us what others think, and the passion with which we cling to the conclusions is quite shocking when you think about it. Our species frequently kills members who challenge the dominant conclusions, even though most of us have picked them up from a culture we were randomly born into. We get them from our family, our class, religion, or nation, and the local conceptual matrix we inhabit, coming unnoticed to us in the metaphors and the language that we use. But imagine the world if people really were ignorant in the sense of the saying, it's not that people are ignorant, but it's they know so much that isn't so. The great prophet of this sort of radical ignorance was possibly the most influential thinker who ever lived, Socrates. But his has always been a minority position, not the questioning, but the settling for not knowing. But most of his countrymen, like us, had a different agenda, to question their way to a conclusion, then resist being budged from it. To them, his position was intolerable, so they destroyed him. But what he showed is that we are unconscious of our conceptual fabric, and that it's full of holes and mismatched patches, and only holds together by contradictions. It's a dangerous construction of error and illusion. His job was to tidy it up by forcing people to become conscious of what they did not know. Our obsession to white-knuckle our hold on certainty in our consensual narratives is innately human. Maybe we have been genetically and culturally hardwired over thousands of generations by shadows of uncertainty that our ancestors had to dispel to gain the courage to survive the long odyssey out of Eden. Maybe finding reason to hope for supernatural rescue in hopeless situations does have a survival payoff, and we are the descendants and genetic inheritors of humans who had this edge. But the rub is that they constructed certainties that chased away these shadows and fixed patterns in our thinking and limit our imagining, our ability to solve problems. As they say, to the man with a hammer, every problem is a nail. Of all our unexamined assumptions, the most pragmatic belief that reality is out there, and that language is just a tool we employ to describe it. This has proved true enough, with 300 years of scientific and technological progress to support it. It's less obvious that language is the creator of the reality we experience. Education, the acquisition of terms, words, the lingo, greatly enhances our descriptive focus and our ability to think about a topic, be it philosophy, films, or fashion. In fact, lacking the lingo excludes us from participation in a field. Not only are its more arcane concepts not available to us, but we're unable to build much more than basic thoughts about it. This creative function of language is an ancient intuition, and in our most familiar record of ancient thought, Genesis 1, the words, "And God said, let there be X, and there was X," is more than an invocation of creative power. It is the creative power. We all know the power of language. It brings into being that which was not, in seeming defiance of the usual causative chains of materialism. For example, slogans like "For King and Country," or "Fight for Democracy," or even "God on Our Side," can mobilize nations. build or destroy empires, and annihilate millions, while a well-turned advertising jingle can earn millions. These are words acting in the sphere of thought, the matrix of narratives, and causing material outcomes. But just how far does this go? Can words spoken or thought affect matter directly? For example, in the biblical story of the loaves and fishes, does Jesus magic up enough grub to feed thousands by his consciousness creating matter? Or, by an even more meaningful miracle, do his words transform the selfish thoughts of the crowd into generosity, making them sharers of their hidden hoards? Some see an answer to the mind's acting on matter in quantum mechanics. Certainly, quantum mechanics suggests many intriguing ideas related to how consciousness affects the ontological status of atomic particles, and by extension, objects on our size scale. But after the dust has settled and Schrödinger's cat has jumped back into his box, what is left but an appeal to one mystery, quantum mechanics, to solve another mystery, mind affecting matter? It's the same flaw in logic, incidentally, that defeats the proof of God as the uncaused cause of the universe. As yet, the conceptual metaphors of quantum mechanics that may advance this understanding are still being haggled over by physicists, so we literally can't know what we're talking about. But we do know that mind affects matter in quite rational ways at the level of our biology. We experience our mind's interaction with our body through signaling mechanisms on our emotions and on our immune system, the immune system that can defeat our diseases from coughs to cancer. And it looks increasingly likely that even cells react to the mind-influenced environments about them and control which genes will be expressed, meaning that there is a mind factor in genetic expression. But many of us throw caution to the wind at this point. We posit a full-on supernatural realm and a deity that will suspend the laws of the universe for us if we ask nicely, or rescue us from it altogether. This flight into dualism has earth as the seat of the mundane, corruption, death and flesh, set against heaven as the seat of the elect, purity, eternal life and spirit. But its western roots hark back to the defeat around 3,000 years ago of the earth mother spirituality by the sky gods like Zeus and Yahweh. This archetypal struggle between conflicting meanings is traceable through all religions, including Christianity, where it continually reappears, despite being declared a heresy since the 2nd century. And in no way is it receding in cultures where religion is receding. We're as tempted now, today, by these Gnostic ideas as ever. We see it in secular popular culture in such mega hits as The Da Vinci Code and in The Matrix, which sees our plight as being due to conventional reality being a trick, a creation imposed from without to deceive humans, who could only be saved by acquiring special powers taught by a Christ figure. It's pure Gnosticism, and it contrasts with the non-dualistic reading of our human situation, that our reality causes our plight because we interpret it wrongly, by overplaying the I, mankind's original sin, not personal fault, but the way humans are, and consequently we suffer. So-called salvation is seeing through it by transforming our I obsession through love of other. Reality is not rejected or denied, but our relationship to it is transformed. It was to fight this Gnostic heresy that St. John opens his Gospel by rewording creation. The Creator brings forth order out of chaos. Word Logos brings forth meaning from unconsciousness. It's a metaphorical equating of the Creator with the Logos word. It counters the dualism by the union of heaven and earth. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And then the union. The Word became flesh. That is the Christ as Godhead incarnated in flesh. This closes the gulf between heavenly and earthly realms. Divinity and humanity are one. There's no warrant now for the despising of our humanity, our earth, our flesh. But tragically, for the history of Christianity, the formula never really succeeded in cancelling the masses' determination to see the human-God relationship in destructive, earth-negating, dualistic terms. We have childishly constructed parent-God metaphors that present a God who can be strangely unconcerned for the plight of a starving child in Africa, yet he can arrange a sunny day for my picnic, if I ask nicely. There's more of the daddy than the divinity in that sort of expectation.